Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's fact. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to episode 2 of the Last Round Podcast, coming off a huge weekend of boxing. Had the alarm go off on the phone. We are recording here. We're going to leave it in there. But I'm your host, Danny Z, with my co-host, Michael Shep, who's just came back from Vegas not too long ago. He was at the Canelo G rematch at the T-Mobile Arena this past Saturday. And obviously, that's the big topic of the last few days. And we're going to get to that as we get into the show. But let's start with the beginning of the weekend. This past Friday, Jose Ramirez, 140-pound world titleist, and putting up his belt against at Fresno, California, against Antonio Orozco of Golden Boy Promotions. Let's just jump right into it. I think that 119-109 score for Ramirez, I think he won, but I just think it was too wide. I think Orozco did pull out some rounds, and he showed a lot of heart, even though he went down twice. What do you think?
It's a great fight, probably one of the fights of the year so far. Both guys kind of went for it, wasted no time, and just getting in there and slugging it out for like a dizzying pace, really. Jose Ramirez just seemed that little bit quicker, a little bit more skillful than Orozco. Orozco even kind of admitted at the end when he was interviewed that he was beaten by a better boxer on the day.
You think it looked like Ramirez's height played a pretty big factor? Yeah, he used his height.
Yeah, his height and reach, kind of like one of those textbook, just wouldn't let Orozco come in, just kept picking him off. You've got to give Orozco credit though; he had crazy heart. He was down, I think, in the 4th round,
and then the 8th.
Was it again in the 8th or later on? But he kind of just kept going, and like we were kind of just saying to you before, it was one of those things where you kind of thought, should he have just pulled out and just kind of saved himself for another day? Because at the end, he was pretty badly beaten.
He was, yeah. I mean, I thought, because I know we talked about this last week. I don't know if we talked about it on the show or not, but I thought Orozco was gonna get stopped. I just didn't think, just based on his last few fights and missing weight in a couple of them. Mm-hmm. I thought Ramirez was just gonna go through him. But Orozco's heart was totally there throughout the entire fight. And especially after he got knocked down the second time, I think it was the 8th round, I thought, oh, that's it. He's not going to survive the rest of the fight. No, man, he survived. And like I said, I think I don't know if it was all 3 scores or if it was 2 out of the 3 judges' scorecards, but I think they had 119-109 scores. I honestly thought that was extremely wide. Mm-hmm. I think Ramirez definitely obviously beat him, and it was convincingly. But I think Orozco did deserve some rounds. And he, like you said, he had heart, man. He had heart in that fight, and they went at it. Two Mexican boxers. You talk about Mexican style. We had the Saturday's main event on HBO pay-per-view, being called Mexican style and everything, and obviously that was a great fight. But Friday was the first Mexican style of that weekend.
Yeah, it was a great start to the weekend. It was one of those defeats for Orozco where, kind of like Klitschko when he fought Joshua, where he comes out actually kind of weirdly in a better position because everyone wants to see him again.
Right.
It was definitely I think ESPN will definitely want to have him on again.
Right.
Especially that final minute of round 12 where they literally they just planted their feet in the center of the ring and they were just slugging away.
Yeah, they went at it. And especially, Ramirez being such a big draw in his home city of Fresno, right there, I think it was a Save Mart Center. He's fought there, I don't know how many times now, but every time, he has thousands and thousands of people show up. I don't remember what the attendance was for this past Friday's fight, but it looked like it was a pretty solid crowd. And then I know, the last time he was there, it was over like 10,000, 15,000, or he's obviously a draw there. But for TV purposes, how it comes across on your television screen, I think Top Rank's doing a solid job with that in terms of marketing him, especially as he can draw in his own city up in Northern California, up there in Fresno. Where do you think Ramirez goes from here? Obviously, he's had the WBC title at 140 pounds for a while now. I mean, what's next for him? What's next for him? Assuming, of course, we know there's politics all over the place, but, what do you think?
That's a good question.
I mean, who else has a title at 140?
Well, the only problem is you've got the World Boxing Super Series.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'd imagine he's probably he'll fight somebody of little note, and then I imagine there'll be a big fight because the World Boxing Super Series is going to take, a year?
It's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while, and so all those people with the titles and the big names are kind of like taken up until that finishes.
I mean, who has titles at 140 right now? Mikey obviously dropped it.
Regis Prograis.
That's what. Oh, he went into the ring after.
Yeah, because those two were supposed to fight each other. Yeah, Josh Taylor.
Right.
Josh Taylor has the WBC, silver. Regis Prograis has one.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. He went into the ring after. I don't remember exactly what was told or what was said in between both fighters, him and Ramirez. But obviously, they're building to that. I don't think Top Rank would have let him in the ring and get in his face if they didn't think like, okay, well, this is a viable option. Obviously, we're going to make this.
I think Maurice Hooker.
He doesn't have a belt, does he?
Didn't he beat Terry Flanagan?
Does he have a title?
I think he got a WBO because didn't him and Terry Flanagan fight for it, and he came over to England and beat him.
You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
So that they could make, because Terry, if I remember rightly, Hooker didn't go into the World Boxing Super Series.
No, he didn't.
Talked about going in, so
right.
He's available. Ramirez obviously just won that fight, so he should be available. They could make those.
That's pretty. You know what? I think there's an entertaining landscape right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, that whole division is up for grabs in terms of who's the best fighter right now. I mean, Ramirez is good, obviously. Regis Prograis is obviously good, and that'd be a pretty entertaining fight between him and Ramirez. But ever since Terrence Crawford left, and ever since, of course, Mikey Garcia dropped his 140-pound title belt, that division is up for grabs in terms of, okay, who runs this division? You know what I mean?
Well, he's training with Mikey's brother, isn't he now?
Yeah, Robert Garcia. Oh, was this the first fight or the second fight?
I think it's the first
fight. The first fight, yeah. And then he was obviously right there next to him with his South Coast Mitsubishi hat that he always wears. Man, he just sticks to it, man. It's crazy. It's been years, but there was the first fight. So he's out here training, Riverside, California, out here in Southern California. I mean, I think he's going to stick with him. I think he's going to stick with him for a while.
By the sounds of it, when they were both talking, they were kind of saying they brought him into the family, and he wanted that one-on-one time that he couldn't get from Freddie Roach.
Right.
Because Freddie Roach seems to have no stable anymore.
Yeah, his stable's diminishing. I mean, that's another topic for another day. I think we can do a whole show on that. But yeah, it was. Yeah, that's a good point that you brought it up. Robert Garcia being having that pairing for the first time. I think it was a good pairing. I think they're going to be a trainer coach for quite a while. I think it was a good matchup. I like Robert Garcia. He obviously has a big stable and he trains a lot of young fighters and he's putting in the work. So I like that. I really enjoyed that. And then let's move to Saturday, the meat and potatoes, maybe of the year. We'll start with the beginning of the card. Virgil Ortiz against Roberto Ortiz, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you were in the building for that fight, weren't you? Mm-hmm. What did you think about it, being right there?
I thought it was a good fight for Virgil. He's fighting somebody with obviously a lot more experience than himself. And Virgil Ortiz, for me, is one of my favorite prospects coming through.
And you're not the first person to say that. There's a lot of people who like him. If you don't know Virgil Ortiz out there, a casual boxing fan, or maybe you're listening to this because the Canelo Triple G aftermath. There's a fighter for Golden Boy, Golden Boy Promotions named Virgil Ortiz. He's a great fighter, and I hope he keeps going up and up and up. But he has a lot of potential, and he keeps kicking butt. But keep going, Shep. Sorry to cut you off there.
He's I think 11 wins, 11 KOs now. He's 20 years old, out of Texas, but he trains with Robert Garcia now as well.
I think so, yeah.
But I've seen him when he was training with Joe Diaz, and then I saw him with Robert Garcia's gym. He's pretty grounded. He's focusing 100% on boxing. When you meet him, he's very down to earth. He's not distracted by, going out drinking and partying and that sort of stuff. So he's good. He very skilled. He can kind of do a little bit of everything. He's got a good defense, good feet. As you can see, he's got knockout power. He actually fought his first ever sparring partner. Roberto Ortiz was his first ever sparring partner.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so when he first turned pro.
What a tidbit that is.
Yes, that was his first ever sparring partner. So he said it was kind of good to, kind of defeat him and get onto that next step of his career. But I thought he looked good. He went in there, kind of got him out of there early. So
right.
It's kind of hard to judge how good it was because it was such a short display, knocking him out in the second round.
Right.
But he had him down a couple of times, and then the referee just kind of jumped in. And
he just stopped. He's like, this is over.
Yeah, this is over.
I hope. I mean, how many times has he fought this year? Do we know that?
Virgil?
Yeah.
I think I said twice. He's
twice?
He headlined a card, didn't he, in LA, one of the small Golden Boy cards? The
LA Fight Club?
I think so.
Yeah, right there in downtown.
So maybe
I think he did. But I mean, I think
at least twice, maybe 3 times.
I mean, I think he needs to go the we'll get to this fight, but I think he needs to go the Munguia route and fight 4 or 5 times a year, man. Just get out there, just push it. But I like Virgil Ortiz. Obviously, he's young, 20 years old. Can't even have a drink yet. He's not even 21, but he can knock your head off. 11-0, 11 KOs. So, hopefully, let's see what's next for him. But obviously, he's still got a ways to go. But he has a lot of promise, a lot of promise, and I hope Golden Boy really, handles his career well, and he can keep going and just imagine he can maybe have like a Triple G type of career in terms of all those knockouts, because people obviously that's the style people like, especially as a casual fan, where they say the money's at, knockouts, drama, big drama show. But for Virgil Ortiz, what do we got next? Chocolatito Gonzalez and Moises Fuentes. Was that the next one?
Yeah, that's the next one.
So at first, when I was watching it, I thought Chocolatito was kind of he was trying to find his groove again. And, I was kind of nervous. I was like, his trainer did pass away a couple years ago. He's been through a divorce recently. So, that's a lot of stuff to weigh on your mind. Especially when, you were one of the best, if not the best pound for pound fighter in the world for a longest time. And the first couple rounds, I was like, I think he seems like he's not all there yet. But then he started turning it on, and he got tagged a couple times. It wasn't bad, but Fuentes did get some shots in, where he should feel kind of proud about it. But then Chocolatito just turned on the gas and was able to stop him. What round did he stop him? Do you remember? Was it the middle rounds? Was it before the 7th? I don't remember.
Fifth, I think.
Was it the 5th? Oh, I didn't know it was that early. I liked it. Like I said, the first 2-3 rounds, couple rounds, I was kind of nervous because I was like, he kind of looks off just because, all the stuff he's going through in his personal life or he's went through. I mean, that's tough, that stuff will weigh on your mind and affect, everything else you're doing in your life. So, but, I think as he started tagging him more and started wearing him down, and especially when he stopped him, if it was the 5th, I don't remember. Don't get mad at us if we're quoting the wrong round. But I think that was good for himself. He needed that. He not only needed that win, he needed a stoppage win like that, like a knockout. I think it was good for him.
It was a bad knockout.
It was. I liked it though. He needed it. And I mean, what'd you think? What'd you think watching it there?
We touched on it last week. I thought Fuentes was kind of picked for Chocolatito to come back and knock out. You could tell, like you said, he did get hit a little bit too much for my liking. Because Chocolatito back in the day, he was kind of more elusive. Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether it's just an age thing or something like that, or whether maybe he just knew that Fuentes, he was kind of taking one to give one.
Right.
But Fuentes definitely, he didn't have much movement. He kind of just stood there and was taking a bit of a beating really over the 5 rounds. I said Chocolatito, I think, dominated all 5 rounds and then kind of got him out of there. I don't even think Fuentes actually hit him that many times. I think I read the CompuBox stats.
No, it wasn't. But I mean, if you're really, really watching the fight, especially like us, being actually hardcore boxing fans, Fuentes did, get, like you said, Chocolatito takes one to give one.
Yeah, definitely.
So he did get some shots, but I mean, especially taking shots from So Rungby's side the last couple fights, he's just like, oh man, I can take this. Like, I took punches from this guy and he stopped me. So I think it was good. I think it's also good for promoter Tom Loeffler because he puts on the Superfly cards, and it gives Chocolatito a way to build back his name up and put him on these Superfly cards out here in Southern California. So I thought it was good. I thought it was good for him. I think I hope he can sustain it and come back and get back into that elite competition of the 115-pound division. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see him Easter 2019. He'll be back on the Superfly 4. Like you said, I think that's what they wanted.
It's crazy that we've had 4. We're coming up on 4 Superflies now. I remember when they were talking about it, we're going to have this Superfly event.
Yeah.
Like, damn, it's already coming up on 4. It's ridiculous. But no, you're right, though. I like it, though. I think he's going to come back, and eventually he's going to headline another card, and it's going to be a world title shot. He might get So Rungby side again. You never know. You never know. You really don't. I mean, he could fight Quadras again. Him and Quadras, when they fought at the Forum, was it last year or was it the year before? I was at that fight. That fight was fun. That was a fun freaking fight.
I think we'll see that one.
I think we're going to see that again.
Yeah, I do.
I think we are going to see that again because that was a fun fight. And I don't know if you were there for that at the Forum, but there was the fans were seemingly split. There was Mexican fans for Quadras, and then there was Nicaraguan fans for Chocolatito, and man, that place was awesome. That was an awesome atmosphere. That was one of the best fights in terms of crowd atmosphere I've ever been to. But that was a great fight. So let's move into one that I know we chose people to win. I think we both chose Chocolatito last year or last week in our first episode for to win this fight. So we obviously agree on that. But now we're getting to the disagreement fight. Lemieux and O'Sullivan. You picked O'Sullivan last week. I picked Lemieux. And what happened? Exactly what I said.
I couldn't have been more wrong.
You couldn't have been more wrong.
Spike I don't know what he was thinking. He went in there, just planted his feet, and just tried to slow it out.
There was no movement.
Yes.
There was no movement. I was like, oh man. And as soon as Lemieux tagged him enough, but Lemieux even coming out in the first round was already trying to knock him out.
It looked like he was hurting him even when he was hitting him on the arms.
Yeah.
Even though when he was blocking them, it looked like he was kind of taking them back.
And I don't know, like you said, I don't know what O'Sullivan was like. It just seemed like he had no game plan.
No, it seemed like he just went in there and just thought.
I honestly, I don't think he expected Lemieux to come out so strong. And I thought, okay, he's gonna get a read on him the first maybe 2-3 rounds, and then like he started feeling his power. He's like, oh, okay, well, let me stay patient. Yeah. It's like, no, like he's swinging at you. You got to figure it out. Like, I mean, I thought he was gonna study the BJ Saunders fight.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
because that's the blueprint.
Yep.
That or the Triple G fight. But obviously, for somebody like O'Sullivan, he should fight like BJ Saunders. But second round, right? Second round with that right. It was a right hook. Oh,
first round.
Was it the first?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the end of the first round. It was the end of the first round. Oh man, that right hook, and then he kind of just swung over and fell to the ground, and that was it.
That was a bad knockout. The referee kind of went over and looked in his eyes and was like, what was the crowd reaction in the building? To be honest, the crowd was empty. The stadium was empty until.
Well, they fought like 5:45.
Yeah, it was
Pacific time
because of that crazy 90-minute delay. Like, even in the Munguia fight, there was, I'd say, only a few thousand there, and then everyone just turned up at 8:00.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it is. But no, Lemieux, like exactly like I told you, Lemieux's power was just too much. O'Sullivan's never fought anybody the caliber of Lemieux. Even though Lemieux's lost to Triple G, he lost to BJ Saunders. Lemieux is still a great middleweight. He's still like, there's a difference between being like an elite fighter and Lemieux is a great fighter at middleweight. Like, he's like one of those guys. Like, okay, in order to get to Triple G, Canelo, even BJ Saunders, you got to fight a guy like Lemieux and beat him.
Yeah, whoever won that fight, I think, was going to end up with a big payday. Because whoever won that fight is probably going to end up being Canelo's fight in December.
Supposedly. I mean, yeah. I know I think Max Kellerman of HBO asked Lemieux following the fight about it, and he said, yeah. He obviously he's open to it. That's a big payday. That's a huge payday. So yeah, Lemieux knocked him out with that right hand. Nasty. just nasty.
Yeah, that was a bad knockout.
It was just bad.
I felt for him.
And you can see him when they zoomed in on his face. He didn't know where he was at.
No, yeah, he was
did
up
not
in the
know
ring.
where he was at.
No.
It was just, man. And then, then Lemieux after, he's like, he starts talking about like, yeah, he was talking all this crap about me. It's just like, I came in to just do my job. I let my hands do the talking. So, I don't know. I think with O'Sullivan, what they saw in him was that he's from Ireland, that big fan base, Conor McGregor and stuff. And then he has that, Captain Hook-esque.
He looks like the guy from Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New York, that's what it is. Yeah, the guy from Gangs of New York. And he has a look. It's marketable. It's marketable.
His white suit.
Yeah, and it's marketable. So, I think they're like, okay, well, let's see what we got here. Because I think Golden Boy signed him for a couple fights.
Yeah, the rumor is he obviously is going to fight Jason Quigley, St. Patrick's Day.
That's actually not that bad. Yeah.
And then the winner of that will probably get.
I feel like we haven't seen Quigley in a while. I don't know.
He got injured though, didn't he?
Oh, okay.
Broke his hand.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's right. We'll talk about it in another show. But yeah, I think Sullivan they took the risk on his marketability, which obviously could have worked, but you obviously need the talent to back it up, or at least come back from it and come back strong. But Lemieux, obviously, it makes a lot of sense that he fights Canelo, especially since they're both Golden Boy fighters. But I think either way, Lemieux, even if he doesn't get Canelo, he should get a pretty solid fight. Even putting him against Jacobs, I think would be pretty entertaining. I would still pick Jacobs, but like I said, I like Lemieux. I think Lemieux with any middleweight right now, is entertaining.
He's just because of his style of fighting.
Yeah, he's a hooker, man. Like he's a power hitter.
He's either gonna blow you out or you're gonna blow him out. Just because he plants his feet and just swings.
Yeah. So I like Lemieux. I think before, how old is he? Oh, he's only 29. He's a young guy. I think he still has a lot left in the tank. I think he's going to have another world title shot soon, whether it's against Canelo or somebody else. Time will tell. But I like Lemieux, and obviously the Canelo fight makes sense. But I guess we'll get into that as we keep going. And obviously, the main event, the fight everybody's been waiting for, that should have happened in May, Cinco de Mayo of earlier this year. But the whole clenbuterol. It finally happened September 15th, 2018 at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, on HBO pay-per-view this past Saturday. Canelo Alvarez defeats Triple G Gennady Golovkin by majority decision. Scores of 114 and 1. Oh, you're right. Thank you for telling me that. We are recording live here, technically. Not live, but we did miss the Munguia fight. So I know you people listening like, hey, they missed the Munguia fight. We just remembered. Let's go back to it really quick. We'll touch on it before we get into the Canelo Triple G, because we know we're going to talk about that for a while. Jaime Munguia, 21 years old, retains his WBO 154-pound world title by stopping Brandon Cook. Honestly, were you surprised?
No. It was like a big brother fighting his little brother.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like.
That's what it looked like.
That's exactly what it looked like. But like we talked about Chocolatito and Fuentes. This was a fight by design. This was a win by design. Munguia is at 21 years old and being obviously Mexican, and his fighting style is obviously appealing to people because he's knocking people out. He's swinging for the fences. He's kind of like a Lemieux, but at 154 pounds. Even though he should probably be at middleweight, maybe even super middleweight.
Yeah,
but
huge compared to Cook.
He's a big guy. Obviously, this was essentially a showcase fight. Brandon Cook from Canada, I think he was undefeated, wasn't he? Brandon Cook. So in that sense, when you looked at the numerical standpoint, it looked like, this is kind of entertaining. 2 undefeated fighters. Yeah, if you look at it from a numbers point of view, of course it is. But Munguia, I think everybody kind of knew that Munguia was gonna stop him, especially when he just started swinging him when he got him against the ropes. And there was honestly a couple of times before he was actually even stopped that I think Brandon Cook was saved by the bell. right at the end of the round, and I was like, oh man, he's lucky. He's lucky he got saved by the bell. I mean, I know you said there was only a couple thousand people in the arena at that time because, obviously the time, the 90 minutes in between that and the main event. But what was the crowd reaction behind his win?
I mean, it sounded like everybody was there for him, really. Been like the Mexican holiday, so I think everyone was there.
He had a lot of support.
Yeah, he had a lot of support. You can see Golden Boy kind of trying to put money behind him and showcase him and, try and get the fan base. But it was kind of from the moment you saw them in the corners before the first bell rang, you could see these two guys are in different weight divisions.
Right.
It was just kind of when's he going to knock him out, and then if he's going to knock him out.
Right.
Obviously, went in there, he dropped him a couple of times, and then just caught him in the ropes and just
wailed on him.
Just wailed on him, yeah. Just got him out of there.
Nasty.
It was. I thought it was weird that he kept with the low blows.
Yeah, I noticed that,
especially with the height difference.
I noticed
kind of thinking.
Yeah. I noticed. I was like, why are you going that low? Oh, but whatever.
It's kind of odd.
It is what it is. I'm sure his trainers, who's the trainer? Alcazar. He trained De La Hoya. And then the commentator said that, which, makes sense, even when I knew about it beforehand, that, Golden Boy wanted Alcazar to train him. Because, he's obviously young, especially now that he has a world title and everything. He can develop him into, they're hoping that they catch that spark of fire again that he got with De La Hoya when he was training him for all those years. So, I get it. I understand. I think it's a solid move. And obviously so far it's panning out. But, he's still young. He still has a lot of holes in his game.
I thought his footwork looked a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously improvements.
Yeah.
He's improving. But like we said last week, if he fights a guy like the likes of like the Charlo brothers, or anybody else at who even Erislandy Lara and those guys over there at PBC, I think those guys would easily beat him, because they're intelligent boxers, so
he needs to he always comes in and wants to plant his feet before he throws to get full power. It's like every single shot he wants full power behind him. I
mean, even Jarrett Hurd, you got Jarrett Hurd there,
those
two going at it would be pretty crazy. But Jaime Munguia, I think he said he wanted to fight once more in December. So I think that's going to be a sixth fight. But honestly, I think, like I said, I think it's good for him because he's building his exposure. It's exposing him, and he's on HBO. It's activity. So it works out for him. So good luck to him. And obviously he has that world title at 154 pounds, and
that's his last fight with Golden Boy as well.
Oh, really?
They had a 2-fight option.
Oh,
that'll be his second. That'll be his last one.
Oh, wow. I'm assuming they're going to renegotiate. So, and he's going to stay with them. And there's no way there's no way that's not going to happen. And,
he'll get some good money though.
So it'll work out for him. But, what do you think's next for him? Another showcase fight, and then next year he kind of gets somebody pretty solid.
Yeah, I think you touched on it. Like going to Alcazar. They're going to take some time. If they don't want to rush him, that's the problem because he does have a lot of holes. And I think picking up the belt was actually, in a way, kind of going to take him back because he's going to be made to go into bigger fights against. Because obviously he's going to have to fight the top tier guys.
He's going to have to.
Yeah. He's going to have to keep trying to pick guys who are going to stand in front of him.
Right.
Because the guys who are going to move around where he can't plant his feet and just throw the big bombs. Those are the type of people that are going to cause him a lot of problems.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. Honestly, if I was like a guy like Jarrett Hurd, I'd be begging for that fight. But put him in front of me.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Jarrett Hurd is like a freight train too, and he's got a title. And I think for a guy like Jarrett Hurd, he can easily beat Munguia, and then he has 2 titles at 154. So
he's like a cruiserweight.
Yeah, he's a big guy too. So
he's huge.
I think that in terms of like size, that's the best matchup for each other. But obviously, Hurd is going to be the extreme favorite. So, but there's a lot of potential, a lot of options going on all over the place. 154, and time goes by, and we'll see who comes out at the top. But I think right now, it's the Charlo and then Jarrett Hurd at the top essentially right now. So, but we'll see. Munguia has a lot of promise, and he's knocking people out, fan-friendly style. Only time will tell. So I'm sure Golden Boy will work on him for quite a while, especially coming up next year. All right. Let's rewind, or at least fast forward. Canelo Alvarez defeats Gennady Golovkin, Triple G, by majority decision on HBO pay-per-view from Las Vegas, Nevada, the T-Mobile Arena. scores of 114-114 and 115-113 twice. What do you think?
It was a close fight. Probably one of the best fights I've been to in terms of just actual skill and the crowd. Everyone was going crazy. It was the big fight of the year that everyone's been waiting for. Everyone's had to wait a year. You had Canelo getting banned. All the drama. So it was good.
There was a lot of suspense leading up to this.
Yeah. And then a 90-minute wait in between fights, which we won't go into, but it's kind of crazy. They did that.
I don't know. That was ridiculous.
It was close. I can see.
How did you score it?
Okay, I'll start with that.
We'll start with that, and then we'll get into detail.
I scored it Golovkin.
What was this? What score did you have?
115, 113, the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
But because there was lots of rounds that were kind of, I think Golovkin just edged it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's open to interpretation to, the judges on the side of the ring where they're sat, what they favor in terms of, do they favor, Golovkin just sticking out the jab, or do they look at it, Canelo's got the center of the ring. He's pushing Golovkin back. So he's dominating the fight. He's pressuring the fight. So I can see why people scored it in favor of him, even though, according to Twitter and everyone like that, they were saying the majority of the media and the majority of the people all scored it Golovkin's way. But, it was a close fight. So
right.
Personally, Golovkin by a round, I wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have thought it would be a crazy decision for it to have been a draw. But
I think people coming out, robbery this, robbery that. I mean, come on, man. You got to be satisfied here. This was a great fight, and it was way more extremely closer than last year's fight.
Yeah, definitely.
Last year's fight, was still close. Like I said last week, I was satisfied with the draw last year. I know a lot of people know Triple G won. And then people were saying Canelo fought off the back foot. He was running all night long. He wasn't running. He was boxing. Mayweather's fought like that his whole life, and look at where he's at. But this year, all the criticism that Canelo was getting the last several months, which was mostly coming from Abel Sanchez. It wasn't even coming from Gennady Golovkin. It was coming from Gennady Golovkin a couple times, but it was mostly Abel Sanchez, the trainer of Gennady Golovkin. And then, of course, the fans and social media, that Canelo needs to stand in there and fight. He needs to take the fight to Golovkin. He needs to, back him up. What did he do? For the first, essentially 7 rounds, it was Canelo taking the fight to Triple G. Coming out in that first round, second round, everybody was like, whoa, like everybody, he's backing him up. He's backing him up. Granted, Golovkin was still landing his jab. He was still, getting his shots in. But Canelo was taking the fight to Triple G. I know people, complain about commentary, whether it's Showtime, HBO, or what have you. And there was people on social media, people I talked to who were kind of angry about that. The HBO commentators were mentioning that Canelo Alvarez is winning the story of the fight. And then they were comparing it to the Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev, the first fight, that how Andre Ward was winning the story of the fight. And at first I was like, well, what do they mean? But I understood why. Because
Max Kellerman's in love with Andre Ward. That's
why. Andre Ward is
any chance he gets, he drops that in.
Yeah, the HBO commentary team, especially Max Kellerman, they love Andre Ward. Mm-hmm. But Andre Ward is a great fighter. I'm not going to give him past it. He's great. I liked watching him. I'm kind of sad he retired because he's still a lot left. But that's another topic for another day. But Canelo Alvarez took the fight to Gennady Golovkin, and then especially with those body shots in the middle rounds, he was catching him nasty with those body shots, nasty to the point where you could see that it was affecting Golovkin, and even even the commentary team were like, oh, you know what? Like those body shots are affecting him. I remember Roy Jones was like, oh, Jim, I think those body shots are going to take him out. I don't think he's going to have the gas left in the tank to last another 6 rounds. And I was watching, I was like, oh yeah, he's catching him with those body shots. Canelo was putting in the work to the body, and Gennady did not touch the body like at all. I mean, a couple times here, but he didn't. And people thought like, oh, he's going to come in and touch him at the body because he didn't touch him the first time. He didn't touch him. And like I said, I know I haven't mentioned my score yet. I scored at 115-113 Golovkin. But I was not, even when I scored it right at the end before they announced the official decision, I was like, you know what? If it goes 115-113, 114-113, or 114-114 Canelo or whatever, I'm satisfied with that. I was like, those were tough. Like you said, like I think when you're more of a boxing fan, especially a hardcore boxing fan like us, you're able to notice a lot more things in fights than a casual fan. Like we mentioned, casual fans love the knockout, they love the power punches and everything. But the jab is an important weapon in a fight. If you know how to control a fight with a jab and kind of keep the distance and everything, it could be a great shot. And obviously, Gennady Golovkin's jab, he's always had a great jab. Sometimes it's more of a power punch than an actual jab. And he obviously, like everybody expected, especially since the last fight, Gennady outlanded Canelo in the jab category. I don't know, 2-1, 3-1. It was a lot. He touched him a lot with the jabs, and that's why I think I saw. Some people score fights with, okay, how many times do you get hit? How many times do who landed the most punches? And then some people score fights, depending on judges and everything. Some of them score fights are like, okay, who landed the more significant shots? They'll base it on power shots. And they were both landing on each other throughout the rounds. And Gennady was just landing mostly jabs, especially in the crucial rounds. At times, of course, he connected with some uppercuts, some left and right hooks. They both had their moments. But Canelo, I think he outlanded Gennady Golovkin in the power category. I think 145. He landed 145 power shots, and Gennady landed, I think, like 105 or something. Obviously they landed their share, but I think Canelo's body work and the power shots that he had, and especially as he was backing him up for a good portion of the fight, I think won him that fight. And you can't complain about that. You can't complain about that. I know people say follow the money because he's a superstar. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. We didn't have another 118, 110 score, 120, whatever. That was a great fight. Yeah. That was a great fight. And then, I know, especially at the end, like you could see, like when Canelo's name was announced that he won majority decision, man, you could see it in he screamed out of his lungs, and he was obviously happy. He was very happy, and you can see in Gennady's face he was obviously disappointed. I don't know if you found out, but they both had cuts on their eyes. Did Gennady leave because he had to go to the doctor get stitches, or did he walk out of the ring at the post fight because he didn't want to give an interview? Because you were obviously in the arena.
Abel Sanchez said he left after because he wanted Golovkin to have his moment. He said he wanted to be respectful, and he wanted.
He wanted Canelo to have his moment.
Sorry, yeah, he wanted Canelo to have his moment as the champion, so he left. Whether or not that's an excuse, and he was so pissed.
I mean, honestly, when they showed him that he walked back to the back, I was extremely surprised. But I was like, well, he doesn't have that cut. And I was like, well, maybe a doctor told him, oh no, it's got to stitch you up or something. Honestly, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. But if that was the excuse, like, oh, they want him to have his moment,
that's what he said.
Come on, man. Like, you expect that from some fighters, but I never expected that from Triple G. Triple G's obviously a humble guy, but I mean, hey, that was his first professional loss. Last year I think he was able to take it because it was a draw and he still kept his belts.
But what do you think of They always say that when you take the titles from a champion, you need to go in there and convincingly take them.
I don't know, man. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I don't necessarily agree with that, because just like this past Saturday's fight, that was a competitive fight.
Oh, very.
It was an extremely competitive fight. They could have essentially went either way, just depending on how you scored it. Like you said, some people scored it like, okay, were you watching Gennady's jabs? Like, were you that dialed in that you were watching how many times he was connecting, irregardless of the fact that he was just connecting and not connecting like with effective aggression or power? Or were you watching it in terms of the significance of the punch and the damage it was doing, which was more of Canelo's side in terms of the power category? I was I was satisfied with it. I was satisfied with the entire fight. But I now Canelo's obviously got the WBA world title, middleweight world title, and the WBC world title. Obviously the IBF isn't there anymore because it was dropped by Triple G in May because he didn't want to fight. Derevchenko was fighting Danny Jacobs in October, I think, for the IBF title, I think. But obviously this is going to be a trilogy. But do you think it happens in May of 2019?
Yeah, I think it'll need to. I think we'll see Canelo will go out in December. If he hasn't got any underlying injuries that we don't know about at the minute, he'll fight Lemieux. Lemieux will just stand there and come forward, and Canelo will probably take him out. And then come May, they'll fight.
Do you think
the trilogy?
Do you think there's a clause in the contract for Golden Boy and Canelo saying that, okay, if Canelo wins, we get to have a defense before we give you the trilogy? I think a trilogy is in the contract. Rematch clause, I don't know if it's for both or for one. I'm assuming it's for both, honestly.
It's the biggest payday for them both.
Yeah.
I think they'd be kind of silly not to do it.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Golden Boys had a clause in there, Canelo had a clause in there, like, okay, if I win and I get the titles, I get to have at least one defense against, whoever. Most likely Lemieux.
Keep it in-house.
Yeah, most likely Lemieux. And obviously, Canelo would be favored to win that fight because he's more of the boxer and he's got power and stuff. And Lemieux obviously has had trouble with fighters like that. But even fighting a guy like Lemieux is still intriguing because of Lemieux's power, man. Lemieux's power is an X factor in all of his fights. So I think that's still an intriguing matchup. So even if he fights Lemieux before he gives Gennady Golovkin his rematch, I'm okay with that. I'm cool with that. Of course, we'd like to see the Golovkin match again right away in May or what have you. But, if he fights a guy like Lemieux before he fights Golovkin again, I'm cool with that. I like Lemieux. Like I said, he's a good test that where he gives you just enough risk, if not more risk, in a fight, in order for you to get to the next level. Even though Canelo's already at the top level, but now having the belts, of course, because essentially Canelo's only fought. Gennady Golovkin has been essentially the full-fledged middleweight. I mean, he fought Chavez Jr., but Chavez Jr. that wasn't a fight. Chavez Jr. was just in there like a robot. That wasn't a fight at all. So I don't really count that. But essentially, Canelo's fought the best middleweight in the world twice already. So I think him fighting a guy like Lemieux, even fighting a guy like Danny Jacobs and those guys, even Charlo and stuff, I think Canelo has a lot more confidence in himself to fight guys like that. He's like, okay, well, I just fought the best middleweight in the world, arguably the best fighter in the world, and I stayed in there with him. So, I think it obviously happens trilogy again.
You think Golovkin fights before then?
I would think so, to get his confidence back, because obviously he was disappointed. I would think so.
Yeah, a little run out.
Yeah, he'll fight. Maybe throw a Sullivan in there with him or something. But yeah, I think he would. I think it'd be smart for other fighters in the middleweight division to call him out, like, okay, well, hey, Canelo, can't get Canelo this month because he's gonna fight Lemieux. Why don't you fight me? Because obviously fighting Canelo is a bigger payday for anybody, but fighting Golovkin is still a good payday. So
I think we'll see him and he'll fight someone kind of like, remember when he fought Vanes Matrozian?
Yeah.
Someone he's not really much danger, maybe even someone from maybe the weight below who's going to come up and...
Kell Brook. Kell Brook again. Maybe Amir Khan.
Someone like
Khan needs an opponent. but I was great. I was satisfied with that fight, and I wouldn't mind seeing a trilogy. Congratulations to Canelo. And congratulations to Gennady Golovkin too. He's still a great elite fighter. He shouldn't be disappointed. He put on a great fight. And like I said, me and you scored it for him. A lot of people at press row, a lot of media members scored it a draw. I don't think anybody should have sour grapes. Like, oh yeah, it was a robbery. This and that. No, man. Especially nobody in each respected promotion with Golden Boy or Triple G promotions or whatever. They shouldn't, be having sour grapes. Like, oh well, look at all these press members having all these scores for, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. It was a great fight. Just leave it. It doesn't matter. there's obviously going to be a trilogy. There cannot be a trilogy. So
It's too much money.
yeah, there's too much money on the table still. So let's go to this week as we wrap up the show in our preview of Anthony Joshua, heavyweight champion of the world, fighting Alexander Povetkin this Saturday, September 22nd, from, is it the O2? Wembley Stadium.
90,000 British people
90,000
going crazy.
people. What do you think? Obviously, Povetkin, I know he's been popped in the past for, performance enhancing drugs and everything, but he's still a dangerous fighter. I think the only loss he has in his record is Klitschko, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. He's 34-1, 24 knockouts.
Yeah, and then he fought, what was it, David Price this last time?
Mm-hmm.
And David Price is like 6'6", 6'7". He's like my height. But obviously, he didn't have the same talent. And Povetkin's like 6'1", 6 foot, 6'1".
Yeah, he's
just
smaller heavyweight.
Knocked them into the darkness. Just nasty. I think it's a dangerous fight just because Povetkin he's got power and he's obviously got skill. I'm picking Joshua to win, but honestly, if Povetkin pulls it off, even if he knocks him down once, that's a big moment.
I think it's a lot more dangerous than people are saying. The Povetkin, he's got good pedigree. He was a 2004 Olympic gold medalist. He's like 125 wins and only 7 losses as an amateur. Only ever lost to Vladimir Klitschko. So it's going to be a dangerous fight. Povetkin, he's used to fighting bigger, taller opponents, being a heavyweight and being so small. He's kind of got like a Tyson-esque style because of the way he has to come in. Like he'll leap forward with a left hook. He'll come in, get onto your chest and throw uppercuts because of the his disadvantages because of the size. So he's constantly having to throw upwards.
Right.
But we've seen the way to beat him in the kind of the boring Vladimir Klitschko reign. So I think Joshua, unfortunately, is probably going to go out there and do like a Vladimir type. He's going to keep him on the end of his jab.
The Joshua studying that tape of when Klitschko beat Povetkin. I mean, you obviously have to study that.
It was a 12-round boring decision.
Yeah, it was boring. Boring.
Because if you remember Vladimir, he would keep them on the end of the jab. As soon as Povetkin or somebody would come in,
he would get him with that right hand. He would actually clinch.
He would clinch them.
Yeah.
I watched back the Povetkin fight on YouTube, and he actually got deducted a point because he was clinching so much.
I remember that.
And if you can see the last 2 fights, Parker and also Takam, it seems like Joshua's kind of gone for a more safer, a safer approach.
I noticed
He's gone for I think to get less injuries. You know
what I can't stand that he does is one pet peeve of mine is that when he's fighting you, he holds down your head with his left glove, then he uppercuts you. Like he does it on purpose. Like I don't know, when you're watching it, you'll start noticing it. But I noticed that he did it with
Parker.
He did it with Klitschko. He caught Klitschko once with that uppercut, nasty uppercut. But he pushed his head down. So he does that. That's his move. And I think he got.
That's Klitschko-esque.
Yeah, well, Klitschko did do that too.
Yeah, he used to do that.
And I think Parker kind of told the ref, I think Parker at times was ready for that. They trained for that because I remember a couple times when Joshua tried to get him, Parker would move out of the way. But I've noticed that Joshua does that a lot. He as you're clinching or whatever, he'll put his left hand on top of your head and push your head down, so you're down, and then he just uppercuts you with the right. I'm just like, oh, that's a dirty move. But if he connects, it's nasty. It's really nasty. So, but I'm going with Joshua. But like I said, I can't count out Povetkin. I can't count him out. I'm going Joshua. Maybe decision.
I'm going to go Joshua, and I think it'll be like a late stoppage. I think he'll keep him on the jab.
You think he'll stop him?
I think he'll stop him because I think he'll just wear him down. I think Povetkin years ago when he was more durable, he's 39 now, even though we're both saying he's got good pedigree.
All right.
I think just the Joshua's jab will wear him down, and eventually he'll just stop him because...
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. It'll be a good fight, though. It'll be a good fight. And let's just wrap up the show here with the news that everybody wants to talk about. That came on Saturday morning from Japan, of all places. Mayweather Pacquiao, the rematch in December. It's not official, but Mayweather and Pacquiao were at the same nightclub or whatever, some rave or something in Japan, and they met up, and then Mayweather talks to the camera and says like, I'm coming back in December, you know, and then Pacquiao tweets something out and shares something on social media. I mean, honestly, they just did it. It was Mayweather who just did it just to steal the spotlight from Canelo Triple G, from Golden Boy. But honestly, like, I thought it was hilarious. I was just like, these idiots, like, but you never know. And then Pacquiao released something on this week or a couple days ago, or maybe today, saying that, oh yeah, they're going to finalize a deal for the rematch this week. It's like, what? Like, I don't know what's going on here. But honestly, if it happens again, I mean, of course we're going to watch it. You know, we're boxing fans at the end of the day, you know, and obviously Pacquiao isn't going to come to the States to fight because they're trying to get him for the taxes.
Yeah,
so
that'll be interesting where he does it. They did is it TMT Japan?
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter, so it's looking like they're probably going to do it over there.
They might. I mean, do you really think it's going to happen though, or do you think they're just kind of playing with it just to kind of see?
Like we kind of touched on before the show, we were kind of discussing it. I think they might do it in Japan because, you know, Floyd, as far as I can remember, I don't think he's ever really fought outside of the US. So, you know, the Asian market, they'll probably pay just to see him. You know, hey, this is going to be our one and only chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
The same for Manny Pacquiao. You know, he's got a big audience out in Asia, like his last fight in Malaysia when he fought Matisse. So, you know, they love, like I said before, you know, like those Bob Sapp when he fought over there, those kind of freak shows. So
yeah,
even though they're 39 years old and 41 years old, they'll still pay. They'll still get paid. And that's all that Floyd and Manny really care about, you know.
Yeah.
Manny can't do it in Vegas, just so for the people who don't know, just because he owes the taxman so much money.
Tax evasion.
So, you know, and Floyd nearly always...
Uncle Sam's coming.
Exactly. So, you know, he does it over there, they're going to take a big chunk of that money. So,
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Floyd's going to have to go away from home for once instead of having the Vegas mafia look after him.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, you know, it is what it is. It's at the end of the day, it's kind of like a circus. But, you know, if it happens, you know, we're going to watch it. And then we'll discuss it on the last round again. So, you know, the more boxing, the better. You know, I'm not complaining. The more, if there's a boxing fight every day of the week for 365 days a year, I mean, who's going to complain of that, especially when you're a boxing fan like us? But thanks again for listening to episode number 2 of the Last Round podcast. I am Danny Z with my co-host, Michael Shepard, Shep, who's coming off a long weekend in Las Vegas at the Canelo Triple G rematch at the T-Mobile Arena on HBO pay-per-view. And make sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening at. We appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Follow us on Twitter at The Last Round 12, on Instagram, The Last Round 12. However you're listening to this, whether you're downloaded it or you're streaming it, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, Audio Boom. We thank you for the support. Keep listening to us because we have a lot of things in store. A lot of big guests coming up. We're working on a lot of things, and we're actually going to raffle off some signed gloves from a lot of prominent fighters and boxing personalities in the future. We might start next week, so listen to the show, and we'll let you. And that way you can find out how to win a personalized signed glove, just depending on who it's signed from. But we have a lot of prominent boxers and personalities. But like I said, I'm Danny Z. Thank you again for listening to the show. Shep, what do you got? Final word.
Thanks for listening. Just give us a review. You know, give us a 5-star review so we can be seen more on the iTunes, Apple Podcasts.
Bring us up that chart.
That's it. We're looking for the number 1 spot. So thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is the Last Round Podcast.